Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Gun Culture Radio. This time, instead of having Zeke talk at you guys and make you aware of the sponsor, I figured I would just do it myself. The sponsor for this podcast is SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute. You can check them out at sdi.edu. It's a really cool opportunity if you're interested in being a gunsmith. They have some other firearms technology degrees. Just check out their website. They do take GI Bill. So any veterans out there, it's a cool opportunity. You know, you can't hate a job, in the gun industry. I assume a lot of people listening to this show are gun nuts just like me. It's cool to be able to have a job doing something that you love. Turning a hobby into a job is the true American dream. It's not 2 cars in every garage and a white picket fence. It's having a job that you love. That's the American dream right there. And that should be everyone's dream. And that should be the human dream, not just the American dream. Anyways, check that out, sdi.edu. Really appreciate them for the sponsorship. This show is not cheap to make. So anyways, appreciate that and hope you guys enjoy the show. We also appreciate our other sponsor, Ballistol. As you guys probably know, we've used this stuff for a long time, long before the YouTube days. It's a cleaner and a lubricant. It's great on firearms. It's even good at preserving firearms. If you have an old gun with a little bit of rust on it and you want to get that rust off with some steel wool, but you want to do it smoothly without further damaging the finish any more than you absolutely have to, Ballistol works great for that. It's also good just in the house. It works great for leather furniture, wood. It really darkens it up and makes it look really rich. It's just a really great and overall multi-use lubricant, and it really protects all your metal, keeps it from rusting. It's a great product. Used it for a long time and really appreciate them supporting the show, and I hope you guys appreciate that too. And just check them out at ballistol.com. All right, we're back on the show again. You guys might have noticed a little extra ad there. We got a sponsorship. It's kind of a temporary deal, but we have a sponsorship from Ballistol, which is kind of cool. So, you've been using this stuff too for a while, I guess, because I've been giving it to you.
Quite, yeah. I use it quite often.
Yeah,
very refreshing on a sunny day.
Yeah, it is. Especially put a little ice in it. No, it's me and Dad have been using it for a long time. You already saw the sales pitch, so I'm not going to give it to you now. But we like it, so we're happy to have them on board for sure. Helps us keep this thing going. So hopefully we can continue to work with them. But yeah, so again, Tennessee is in the national news with this shooting that's over in Antioch, Tennessee, which is right next to the part of Arizona that we live in, and it's a weird one, man, because so the kid he didn't even have a gun. It turned out it was an airsoft gun, which makes more sense now, because the thing I was really confused on when I was first hearing some of the stories that were coming out about the situation was there seemed to be a really big gap between when the guy showed up and when the cops got there. And I was thinking, okay, well, if he had an AR-15 rifle, if he walked in there with an AR, like, why is no one dead yet until the cops show up? But it makes sense that it was not even a real gun. So,
well, I mean, from what I read, the response time was something like 2 minutes, which is, I think, fairly average, especially in a large town.
For us locals that are familiar with the town of Antioch, there was probably a lot of cops in the area.
Yeah.
So, that was weird, man. Like, I don't know what that guy. I guess just suicide by cop. I mean, that's my best guess.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he was off to the races. Probably there's no telling what type of drugs he was on. Just the hatchet. What was with the hatchet?
Yeah. Why did he have a hatchet? Why?
If you're gonna have an airsoft gun, why not have a Nerf hatchet?
Yeah, exactly.
It totally explains why he was the only one that ended up dead.
Yeah, really. An airsoft gun and a hatchet. That's an interesting arsenal there that he brought with him.
I can see his weaponry runs the entire gamut.
Yeah, it does. And I think his backup gun was a water pistol. So. Oh wow. Yeah, but I heard that the bomb squad they blew up his backpack because it made them feel uncomfortable.
Are you being serious?
That's what they said. Yeah, it made them feel uncomfortable. So. I don't know. Maybe it was like a Hannah Montana backpack or something, and
it just looked a little shifty.
Yeah, they didn't feel good about it. They're like, "What are we gonna do with this thing? Just blow it up."
That's weird. Why so much been happening in Tennessee? We had the Chattanooga thing, and then now the Nashville incident.
Well, I guess it's just 2 really, but
yeah.
And I don't know, man. I think a lot of the cause of this phenomenon of late is, well, of course, there's lots of different reasons. You got the psychotropic drugs and all that kind of stuff. But aside from all that, it seems like a big factor is just people want to be famous. If you think about our culture, glamorizes people who are famous, right? Anyone who is well known is like held in a higher regard, right? So people, they don't want to actually like do a bunch of work and like write a bunch of great music or and do something really good for society to try to obtain a level of fame. They just want to get on the news and make a big splash, and they know the easiest way to do it is just go hurt a bunch of people, Or he didn't even hurt anybody, so he was like the ultimate failure.
Unbelievable. I'm going to be the guy who runs into a movie theater with a hatchet and what was it, an airsoft rifle?
Yeah.
That was his claim to fame.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah, he could have put some eyes out for sure. I think he pepper sprayed people too. It's one of the things he did.
That deviant bastard.
I know.
Unbelievable.
I know. The kids these days. He was probably playing too many video games. That's what it was. That's probably what do it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I got to see, whenever you're on the show, I got to cuss a lot, so make more work for you.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I forgot. Yeah, I'm the censor.
Yep.
It's my job.
Yep. Sorry, folks. That was, there's been a few people that have complained about cutting out the bad language and stuff on the show. And I know most of the people listening, like, that doesn't matter. They cuss themselves. They hear, most media nowadays, language is not a big deal. But some people out there want to watch with their kids around and stuff like that, and they're not comfortable with it. So I opted for the option to make it a clean show.
Well, not only that, you don't want any type of negative press, even minute negative press, when dealing with subjects such as firearms.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you'll pardon the phrase, they are under fire these days.
Yeah. Exactly. They really are. Pun intended. And it's frustrating almost in some ways. It's like, at the end of the day, they're just words. You know what I mean? Like who sat down and decided that like there's going to be these specific words that like we can't say, and they don't have any like necessarily like directly hateful meaning or anything. They're just a word, just a descriptive word that's different from other words, but yet we can't say that because someone decided that that's bad. That's just another example of like how much silly stuff there is out there in our culture. Even
though they are just words, I think I've read and heard on more than one occasion, there was some study that like when you say, or especially if you yell certain curse words, like your brain releases a dopamine or something.
Well, because we think that it's real. That's the thing. It's like,
maybe
it'd be like for example, like that water experiment where the guy like yelled at the water and it like changed it or whatever. Like, I think it's more about the energy that you're putting out. Like if you grew up your whole life thinking that silver was like a cuss word, right? You just thought that your whole life, and then you went around just calling people that, and it wasn't a cuss word to anybody else, and they thought you were just insane. Like, it would probably do the same things. You would think it was real, even though it wasn't. It's like there's a lot of weird things like that. Like, for example, like women, they're allowed to carry a bag with them. Men, no, that's weird. If you have a bag, like a small bag, that's no. What's going on with you?
The man purse?
Yeah.
The merce?
That's true. Maybe that's changing because you got the merce now.
Do they actually call them that?
I don't know. But it's like a lot of weird things like that, though, when you step and look at it. And I'm not saying that like I'm like one of those guys that like just doesn't care and I just do whatever. I mean, I've follow along all those cultural things, a lot of them, but still, it's like, it's really silly that there's just a bunch of little things that we just made up over time. Like, okay, this is okay, and this other thing that's like just slightly different, that's not okay. That's weird.
You ever been in a situation where you have to hold your wife or girlfriend, whatever the case may be's purse while she's doing something else?
No, but I've been grocery shopping before, and she'll be like, she'll have her purse on, she'll be pushing the cart or whatever, and then she'll be like, oh, I'm going to run over here and get this. Will you get that? And it's like, well, you don't want to you can say, no, I ain't getting that. But then it's like, you got to push the cart around with her purse in it. If you do. So it's like,
dude, the way, if anybody gives you any shit about like you holding a purse or even just looks at you funny.
Yeah.
Here's what you do, and I swear to God, this works.
Okay.
If they're just kind of looking at you like snickering or whatever, just hold the purse down at your side and just stare at them. just not like evil, just blankly stare, and then just kind of ease towards them, just a little bit. They'll go away.
I get the sense that you've tried this before.
I've tried hell.
That's funny. Well, there is like a culturally acceptable way for a man to carry a purse, and that is you never grab it by the handle. You just grab it, just
like hold it upside down. Just
grab it by the side. Put it up on top of your shoulder.
No, the really manly way, you got to hold it by the apex of the strap, and you must flourish the pinky.
That's true. That works too.
Nothing says badass like that.
But maybe that'll catch on though. Maybe it's like the pink shirt thing. Remember that caught on because it was like, oh yeah, tough guys wear pink. So maybe like tough guys will have purses. You see some like weightlifter dude that's like 500 pounds, just jacked, and he's like carrying a purse, just daring somebody to say something about it. that becomes a new trend. And then even people that aren't tough are wearing them or carrying them just because they want to look tough.
I seen this meme once that said something to the effect of 90% of women don't like men in pink shirts. And ironically, 90% of men in pink shirts don't like women.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't know. All the cultural norms, man. There's a lot of crazy stuff. I get tired of like it's too much to keep track of. Like I've always my whole life tried to just dress very neutrally just because it's like I'm not keeping track of all this stuff, man.
I've tried all kinds of different suits, just ridiculous. Not necessarily ridiculous, but I don't know. When it comes at the end of the day, I'm just a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy.
Yeah, same here. I know. I hate this idea that you have to like dress a certain way for people to like respect you
or even take you seriously. Or
that's something that I deal with. Like you go into the bank or something, you're gonna get a loan or whatever. It's like if you're not dressed the part, then they question you. But you can like I don't know. You could have filed for bankruptcy 8 times, and you could go out and buy some nice clothes and walk into a bank.
Any idiot can go get a $200 suit.
Yeah, exactly.
And a haircut.
Yeah, that too. People like give me a hard time about having long hair and all this kind of stuff. It's like really, like it's like he's still looking at it that way. And what I don't get is this like real like conservative image of like the you got to have a whatever certain kind of haircut and all this kind of stuff. That kind of came out of the 50s. What's funny is if you go back a little bit further, like it was really common for men to have long hair and beards and stuff, so it's really it's not like it's a new thing. Like with the Beatles, people thought that was crazy. They're like, oh my God, look how long and crazy their hair is. They're wild men. But it doesn't even look long now.
No, their hair wasn't long at all.
Not even the least bit.
My dad told me a story. Like I think this was right after the Beatles had hit. Like did the Ed Sullivan Show, whatever, and they had like moderately long hair. He was talking about. He told my grandfather's like, "That's the way I'm going to cut my hair." And my granddad was like, "The hell you are."
Dude, I've been loving that show that you turned me on to, Trailer Park Boys. I don't know why I hadn't seen it before. That's a great show.
I saw it a long time ago and watched maybe 5 seconds of it, and it was, if I recall, it had Bubbles was saying something on it, and I just instantly thought, well, this is going to be stupid. So 10 years later, my buddy Clay shows me a little clip on YouTube from it, and it was pretty funny. So I decided I started watching it on Netflix, and after about the first season, I was hooked.
Yeah.
I love that show.
I know. I didn't know what to think about it at first. At first, it did seem kind of dumb, but then you sort of get to know like the characters and stuff.
It comes to life.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like the way that they put everything together. Also, like from a perspective of someone who like does film and stuff like that. It's like I really appreciate how they were able to throw together like such an awesome show on such like a small budget, and like just the style that they did it and stuff. And you get the sense that a lot of the scenes that they do, it's very like ad-libbed and stuff, just because it has like a real natural, like human kind of feel.
I think they have a general direction they want to go, and then they get in there and just ad-lib, like you said.
Yeah. It's so funny though, and they do a great job, like all the little idiosyncrasies of all the different characters and, and stuff.
Have you seen some of the ridiculous gunfights they get in?
Oh my god, there's so much shooting in that one. Yeah, like there's some farmer that they get into a shootout with because they're stealing his tractor or something or his lawnmower. Yeah. And that one, Ricky's been shot like 5 times.
He gets shot and put in jail all the time. Like.
And yeah, it's a great show, man. It really almost inspires me to do something like that. I would love to do something like that one day.
Dude, as big as it is here, it is huge in Canada.
I bet.
Dude, in Canada, the show is set in Canada. So
yeah.
But like it's been going since I think 2000, so
yeah.
15 years deep, and they're still making shows.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the episode they did with Rush. With that one,
with Alex Lifeson or whatever.
Yeah, man, I bet the people that were, because it seemed like they did that live at one of their shows at the end. I bet you the people that were there, like, they probably loved that, like to see the characters and then filming the show. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if they got to see that or not. I don't know. Maybe they did.
It looked like they shot that like at their live show.
They probably did. But I mean, if you notice, the perspective is from backstage, and
that's true. Yeah.
So I don't know
they may
how
not
much
have.
the fans saw, but anybody backstage probably was in on it. I think.
Yeah, but that idea though of getting start like with what Kevin Smith did, like getting just a really simple idea together, and just putting together a show like that and it being successful is like, it's such a cool thing when people are able to do that.
Is that the Jay and Silent Bob cat? Okay,
yeah. I don't know. There's something really neat about that. Whenever somebody is able to put together something, a movie or a TV show, like on a budget like that, and it comes out really good, and it's not hokey or super corny like Sharknado.
Yeah, Sharknado. Can you believe they made? Is it 3 of those things?
Probably. I know there's at least 2 of them.
I know there's a 2, but it seems like they've made a Sharknado 3. Like, why are they dumping this on us?
I'm not a big fan of those kind of B-grade movies because there's nothing. The only thing that's different about Sharknado versus any other B-grade movie that's like that is just because they had a kind of a crazy idea. You know what I mean? It's really not done that well necessarily. I mean, I'm sure I haven't seen the second one. I'm sure the second one's probably better because they actually made some money on the first one, so they probably had a bigger budget. But
there's no way you can make sharks in a tornado good. I mean,
it's only good. It's only entertaining in a sense of like just making fun of it. Really,
I mean, I guess it's just make something so ridiculous that.
Yeah, that's what that movie's basically about. It's just so ridiculous that it's entertaining. But
here's one I heard.
It's not my thing, really.
They've got one supposedly called Lavalantula. Apparently, there's tarantulas that can live in lava and come out and shoot lava or do something. I don't know all the just ridiculous. They're running out of ideas quick. I mean,
they really are. I'll tell you what, though. There an independent film that I watched on Netflix that I actually enjoyed. It's called. They have a sequel coming out. I think it's called Iron Sky. And did I tell you about it? It was about so basically what happened in the universe of this movie is the Nazis fled after they were defeated in World War II. They fled to a moon base, and they've been living on the moon ever since World War II happened. And then like the movie takes place in like modern times, right? And Sarah Palin's the president,
oh, wow.
And to gather support, she revamps the space program, and they send some astronauts to the moon, and some U.S. astronauts show up at the moon, and the Nazis see them, and they're like, "They found us! They figured out we're here!" So then they go and they like unleash this attack on the Earth and stuff. It's crazy. But it's funny though because they do a really good job of making it like silly enough to where it's not like it's taking itself too seriously, but yet it actually has some real like underlying stuff thrown in it to where it's not completely dumb. It's kind of a smart movie in a sense.
See, it sounds more like a video game than a movie. Do you remember? Did you ever play Wolfenstein? It was kind of like a precursor to the original Doom. It was made by ID Software. It was basically the Doom, a primitive version of the Doom engine.
Yeah,
but it sounds like like the next version of that is what you're talking about.
Yeah, probably
Wolfenstein.
And that might be when they got the idea for it. I don't know. That's funny.
Speaking of, since this is a gun channel or a show, whatever. Have you heard of? There's this like the Navy has this. It's an electromagnetic railgun.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have I told you about this?
I think we might have talked about it last time we hung out. Okay.
Well, the thing the video I saw on it, basically, this thing has a lot of current running to it,
Yeah.
and it projects a slug down a rail and fires this projectile. It's not even explosive; it's just a slug.
Yeah.
At 11,000 feet per second.
Yeah, that's insanely fast.
And not only does that just do untold damage to its target, it's also safer to hire because you don't have any explosive shells on board your ship.
Oh, that makes sense. 11,000 feet per second. I mean, your average like 223 round, they're typically like around like 2,300 or 2,500, maybe something like that. So you're talking about. And the rounds are probably pretty big too.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I mean this is a deck gun.
Yeah, so you're talking about big rounds flying at a speed like 5 times or more of a 223 round. That's just bizarre. I mean, I would think that would penetrate the hull of a lot of ships. I think it would have to. I mean,
11,000 rounds or 11,000 feet per second.
Yeah, probably like a hot knife through butter.
Oh, dude, that would. No telling. That would, like, just the impact alone, to the force generated from that. There's no telling what type of shockwave that would create.
Man, I bet you that thing makes an interesting sound just when it's going through the air. I would think you would have to almost hear it contacting the air or something. I don't know.
I'm sure it's going far beyond the speed of sound.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's bizarre. Yeah, that's insane. Just think about when that technology is used on like handguns and stuff. We get to the point where like we use it, not necessarily like going that fast, but like some sort of electromagnetic technology or something we get away from gunpowder and brass cases and stuff. Because it's kind of, you think about it, guns, as far as the fundamental way that they work, hasn't really changed for a pretty long time. You know, it's really been a long time since they've been about the same for 100 years in a lot of ways.
Well, from what I can gather, the way this thing works is, you know how like if you have the north and south poles of a magnet, they'll repel each other. Mm-hmm. Well, this thing generates a lot of electricity and negatively or positively charges one aspect of it, and then the projectile.
Yeah,
and it just repels it at that rate at 11,000 feet per second.
Yeah, and it has like no resistance, I guess, whatsoever, and it just.
The only problem with a smaller version is you would have to have a huge like backpack full of some type of generator or battery or something to.
Until they figure out a way to make that smaller. That's the thing. It's like back in the 50s, there was this guy that said that. What did he say? He said one day everyone will have an entire room in their house they'll have that's devoted to being a computer. You know, it's like because they don't. Sometimes we don't realize like where technology, what turns it's going to take us. You know, so it's possible that it never becomes viable anytime soon. But you never know, man. They can figure out some kind of way to some kind of alternate energy source or some kind of crazy nuclear energy thing that's contained in some kind of small device or something that can power something like that.
Do you know anything about antimatter?
Yeah, it's basically like it sounds, antimatter. Like when they get together, they explode and stuff. Right?
Well, you know how like a regular atom has negatively charged electrons orbiting a nucleus of positively charged protons and neutrons. Well, it's the inversion of that.
Yeah, and they never actually found it, have they?
No, they can create it like at CERN, but only in just like a few molecule or a few atoms of it at a time.
Oh, okay.
Like the production rate of it is so slow it can never be.
Don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah, but they can produce it.
Okay.
But I think from what I read, they had if you had a gram of it, it would have the energy potential of 50,000 gallons of rocket fuel.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. The world's going to change pretty dramatically if we got to figure out a different energy source. But I don't know. It's like all this stuff that we're messing around with, like wind, does not seem to be doing much. It almost seems like it costs more money than we actually save. All these, wind turbines and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, I don't know, that doesn't seem all that viable. I mean, solar might.
Solar seems cool. Wave energy. Geothermal is one we really need to tap into, I think.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about that. I know there's some buildings that are like, they're like, I don't know, not powered, but they're like their air conditioning and stuff is like some kind of geothermal thing. You know what I'm talking about? I forget what it is.
Several
or how
years
it works.
ago, I worked on this roofing crew. Of all things. That's a horrible job.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's this really nice, like 50,000 square foot house. It was huge that we were putting the roof on.
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of pipes running through the walls, and I asked a guy on one of the other trades. I was like, "What is all that?" And he's like, "No, they've got geothermal heating and cooling. Basically, this thing pulls. I don't know. They said something like water, or I'm not sure exactly how. It's been a long time ago, but it runs through the pipes and the walls, and it keeps the house kind of at an underground temperature.
Yeah.
Or I guess during the summer, and pulls heat from magma or something. I don't know how it works.
Huh, that's interesting. 'Cause I stayed in a cabin one time that was, I mean, it wasn't really a cabin. It was like sort of supposed to be on a park, and it was it was supposedly it's supposed to have had geothermal heat in there and stuff, and I never understood exactly how it worked. Yeah, that's interesting. Anything like that we can do. But one thing I've heard that it's such a messy situation when you start talking about global warming and all this kind of stuff, because there's so many factors in it that a lot of times like won't get talked about by science, and also you hear these stats that come out, like they'll say, 97% of scientists agree, on global warming, which is ridiculous because there's never been 97% of anything ever agree on anything. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense.
It reminds me of these old
Doesn't mean it's not happening, but
dental floss commercials I used to see when I was a kid. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend flossing. It's like, who is this one dentist?
yeah, now you don't need it.
Yeah. Over smoking a cigarette. F it.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You got to watch those stats whenever it's like percentage of this agrees with that. I mean,
as soon as people, especially like feminists, and start spitting stats at me, dude, anybody can just start spitting bullshit stats.
yeah.
The stats are almost meaningless. They're so abused.
That's why I try not to use them in like pro-gun arguments, because I hate it when the other side uses them. So I try not to use them because it's so. We talked about this on the show. Stats are just so easy to manipulate how people view something, unjustly. Because there's so many different factors in most issues.
Are just raw data, and
yeah, exactly.
There's a human element to every story.
Yeah, exactly. Take the human element out of it. Like for example, the stats you hear about gun deaths. You don't hear about how a large percentage of them are suicides or justifiable homicides. Stuff like that. There's so many factors that just get ignored. They just take all these stats and they're like, okay, well, how can we shape this in a way that proves our point, regardless of if it actually makes sense or not.
It goes back to my theory that anytime, like if you're trying to debate a subject, anytime you have to use underhanded tactics such as data manipulation or
like
even
shock tactics,
or in anytime the truth is self-evident.
Yeah.
And anytime you have to resort to double speak or wordplay or twisting words, you're pushing an agenda. You're not in the right. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Or at least you don't know enough about that, to not have to do that.
Really, exactly. Yeah. That's
because there could be a situation where someone is like, I guarantee there's been people, the pro-gun people, who've used those kind of tactics, but that was just because they were ill prepared. It wasn't necessarily that they were wrong, but so yeah, it's crazy. I try to avoid that when I can, when I'm arguing with somebody about guns, and I usually don't get into a lot of arguments with people about guns. A lot of times I just kind of like leave it alone. But if I do, I try to just talk about very, very basic, fundamental ideas, and just the sense of like, which is more important to you, freedom or safety? Like to me, freedom is more important.
No doubt.
I would rather live in a place that's a little bit more dangerous and get to have the chance on an individual level to protect myself and also have fun. You know, some people they don't like that. And you know what? And who am I to say that they're wrong? You know, that's the thing. Like, there's a large group of people out there that they don't care about any of that stuff. They literally just want to be as safe as possible. They want to be as safe as they can be, and they want everything to be as convenient as it can be. You know, and I guess if that's what you want, that's what you want. And I guess that's one argument for states' rights. You know, but I don't know. But that makes it complicated too, because you know, in one state you can carry a gun, it's totally fine, it's accepted. You know, tons of people do it. You just cross one little imaginary line, you know, and all of a sudden now you're getting carted off to jail. So states' rights is a tough one for me, because while I respect if a large group of people want to live a certain way and certain laws, like they have to have certain laws a certain way where they feel like they can do that, then, you know, I kind of hate to be the guy to be like, no, you can't do that. You know, if there's a place where you want to live to do that, and then I don't know. I mean, but then where do you draw the line? You know, like, what if there was a big group of people that, like, they didn't like black people? They want to have their own state. No black people are allowed there. You know what I mean? It's like, so where you can't, you know, let that happen. So where do you draw the line on states' rights? It's tough.
I think we live in one of the most divisive times in history. I actually heard there was a guy I worked with say that something to the effect of that since Obama's been in, race relations have been set back like almost as bad as they were in during the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. Which you see signs of it in the media, but every single day, I work in a very kind of
ethnic neighborhood.
Well, I don't want to say that because there's plenty of white people there too, but there's a large minority.
It's just a mix, yeah.
Right. But it seems to be a pretty balanced mix.
Yeah.
And every day, nothing but smiles and hey, how you doing? And from everybody. And I don't know. I think too many people derive their perceptions of what's going on in the world from the media. And
yeah, it's just like that Bill Hicks joke about how you watch, the one about how you watch CNN for like 12 hours or something like that, and it's like war, disease, and famine, and death, and then he looked out his window and it was just crickets chirping.
Yeah,
you know?
Dude,
it's so true. It's so true, man. Like, you hear all this stuff about, these racial tension and all these problems, but when you go out and, like, I live in a mostly black neighborhood. You go out, you talk to these people and stuff. Dude, they don't care. They care about the issues that are going on, but they don't judge you for it. They know you're just some person just trying to get by, just like them.
No doubt. I mean, nothing, like I said, nothing but smiles and how are you and politeness. And so why all this division?
Yeah. It's almost like, you can get into the whole, ulterior motive thing, which is a very, precarious rabbit hole to go down. But regardless of the ulterior motive aspect of it, it seems to me, like, on the surface level at least, like, what's going on is that the media has realized that that's something that really fires people up. Anything about race that really piques people's interest. So they discovered that's a way to get ratings, is to talk about this kind of stuff. Like, if you look at this, here we go, stats again, but still, sometimes you sort of have to look at them to an extent. But I mean, statistically speaking, maybe they're skewed stats. I don't know, but it seems like police brutality is not exactly on the rise. It's not actually on the rise on the grand scale, but it's on the rise big time in the media. They're choosing to focus on it a lot.
Well, with the internet in place, there's just that much more of a way that you have to hear about it.
Right, exactly. And there's different ways to look at it. Is it a bad thing because it's dividing everybody and causing all these racial problems on a bigger scale than they would have, before? Or is it maybe a good thing because it's bringing attention to something that's been a problem for a really long time that now can at least some measures maybe can be taken to get it headed more in the right direction. So it's like, it's hard to know on some of these kinds of things because we don't know. We don't have all the information. We don't know. We don't know these big executives at these NBC and stuff like that. Like we don't know. Are they just greedy? people who just want money and ratings, and that's all they care about, and they don't care who they step on or how they screw up society? Or are they getting stuff handed down to them from people we don't know and understand, or people we do know that are telling them they need to make things look a certain way? Or, I mean, it's hard to know.
That's probably more than likely the case, because, I mean, it's almost, I mean, dude, there's a reason that the pyramid is that's like a socially structural thing. I mean, the Egyptians knew it. Basically, you got the commoners at the bottom, the enforcement class on top of them, probably the priest class on top of them, and then governmental rulers, and then the financial elite probably at the head of it. And there's a reason that model has stuck around.
Yeah, if that's even what it represents. I'm not sure that that's necessarily what it represents. There's lots of different kinds of pyramids and stuff. Like, also this idea that one person can control a bunch of other people, to me, is a little bit of a farce. I think, like, every time that it's been tried, it's failed somehow, miserably.
But they always adapt, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing how there could be, like, one person or even one really small group of people. The thing is, always in nature, whenever you have nothing, there's never like one all-powerful thing. There's always an equal opposite. There's always something. There's always a counter. Everything has a counter or something that's like near it. You know what I mean? So, like, it almost doesn't matter how powerful of a person maybe we're talking about. There's probably some other guy who's almost as powerful or as powerful that has a different idea. So I don't know that it necessarily works that way, but then again, I don't know at all how it works at all. So
as much as I hate to out myself as a Lord of the Rings junkie,
yeah,
and I'm paraphrasing here, I think at one point either Gandalf or Bilbo or something said something to the effect of there are more forces in the world than just good and evil.
Yeah, makes sense.
Or there are more forces at work than just good and evil.
Yeah, people have, there's lots of different ways to be. It's not just people who want good and just people who want bad. I mean, and plus good and bad. That whole idea is just our perception.
It's point of view.
Yeah, exactly. It's strictly point of view. That's another thing why I like to talk about how we don't have all of the information, because I think that's important to remember, because I think that there are probably things that have happened that look the way that they do because we don't have all the information. There might be things that the government has done that on the surface look horrible. Like, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they lied to us about that or whatever. But if you actually were sitting in on those conversations, up in the whatever office or whatever with the high ups that were making those decisions, you might have gone, oh, okay, well, yeah, I kind of see why they had to do that, and I see why they couldn't have told people about that. They wouldn't have understood, But that's just a theory. I don't know.
That's a best case scenario situation. More often than not, they're probably covering their asses. I mean,
for mistakes, yeah. One thing I've always wondered about is, that's kind of conflicting. Is it seems like to me, if the government really wanted, because it's been proven on paper, the government has done things and has to keep secrets from the public. There's been some shaky things that have gone on with the government for sure. Like that, there's enough evidence of that. But it seems like to me, the whole Iraq war, like everyone, they knew how unpopular it was to most people. And the reason that they said they went was because of weapons of mass destruction. The thing that doesn't make sense is, like, if they were so worried about how the public viewed that situation, why didn't they just plant them there and say that they found them? They actually took that hit. They took that.
That is strange. I've never really considered that.
So it kind of makes you wonder, like, what's the real reason we went to Iraq?
What was it they said they found? Yellow cake uranium? What the hell is that?
Who knows?
What, Betty Crocker's making uranium now?
Yeah, I think it was gluten-free probably.
Oh, yeah. Well, it always is.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's when you really dig into it, it's complicated. You have to look at all angles. You know what I mean? That's what I try to do. I try to, like, I used to watch Alex Jones and stuff, and I really got away from it because it's not that some of the stuff he says maybe isn't, some of it's true, but a lot of it just seems very antagonistic and hateful and just very, I don't know. It just,
I have to admit, okay, let me just clarify. I don't automatically believe everything Alex Jones says, and sometimes he gets downright silly.
Yeah, he really does.
But the spirit of the direction he's going appeals to me.
Yeah.
And
I get that. I think I would agree with that for the most part. I just don't like his approach to it, the way he goes about it. I like people a little more positive and laid back about it.
Well, I mean, he was on the other day and he was going on about how today, like, modern men are being kind of like feminized,
yeah,
and just through media and culture and this, that, and the other, and how every time he goes out, and I'm quoting
Alex Jones.
I'm quoting. He's like something to the effect of everywhere I go, there are guys going, ooh, and I'm like, no, you're lying. That's not happening.
Sometimes he does stuff that makes it go like, are you just messing with everybody? You know what I mean? Like, are you even real? Because I've seen him, he claims to be a gun guy, but every time he has a gun in his hand, it looks like he never touched one in his life.
I actually haven't seen any of his shooting videos. I've seen a picture of him with an AR, and he had it shouldered correctly, but like,
yeah,
that's
and sometimes his speeches, he seems like a cartoon character sometimes. Like, you ever watch like, he had this speech in front of the Alamo, I guess, I don't know, a few months ago. And it was like, it was almost like he was a parody of himself in some ways. You know what I mean? Like, I agreed with the spirit, sort of what he was saying, about how, talking about freedom and, resisting tyranny and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm with you on that. But I don't know, the way that he goes about it just seems off to me.
It seems somewhat, well, I mean, I guess any production is going to be planned or orchestrated. It would be a better word. But some of the things he says just fly in the face of what the global elite are trying to do. And I mean, well, then again, have you ever heard the term controlled opposition?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's possible he could be that.
A lot of people say that, but also every single person who speaks out politically there's someone out there saying that they're like a disinformation agent. So they can't all be.
True. But I mean, Vladimir Lenin, I think it was either him or Stalin, or maybe, I don't know, one of them.
Yeah.
Would have been quoted as saying, the best way to control your opposition is to lead it.
Yeah, and I think some of that probably goes on, for sure. I don't know that it's Alex Jones necessarily, but I think Alex Jones is, at a minimum, a little bit goofy, and not necessarily in a good way.
I tell you who I like to listen to. It sucks that he's dead because he's not putting anything new out, but Bill Cooper had a lot of interesting things to say. There were a few things he had to say that are downright questionable.
Yeah.
Concerning like alien life and alien craft and this, that, and the other.
Well, Bill Cooper is kind of a shaky one too, though, because there's a lot of stuff that he said, and he later came back and kind of went against it, and then he sort of like discredited himself a few times. And
well, I mean, he may have been threatened. I mean,
yeah, maybe
they did end up killing him. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Like, I definitely think the government has to have secrets. Well, I mean, we know they do, because I mean, we didn't know about the what's it called? Was the SR-71 or the stealth bomber? We didn't know about that until like the 70s. And they've been working on that thing ever since after World War II.
I can see keeping war technology secret. I mean, to a point.
Yeah, but the thing is, we know based on that kind of stuff, they keep some secrets from us. So it's not that unrealistic to think the government has secrets. But I have to say, it seems like they could keep them better than that. But maybe it doesn't matter if they get out, because nobody's going to believe it anyways. So who knows? It's tough to know. Then you also got the element of people who speak out against the government. Like if I wanted to start a YouTube channel, if no one knew who I was, and I just started from scratch, started a YouTube channel, and I started talking about all this stuff, like I was revealing secrets from the government, and I had this connection and source and all this kind of stuff, like I would get a following. I mean, I would easily. You'd get a following just talking about that stuff. You're going to get a pretty good following, and I would make some money off of that following. So with really little effort. I wouldn't have to do that much. I'd basically just regurgitate everybody else's stuff, and I could make decent money just from doing that. So you got that element of it too, where it can be, I think, just a money making thing for some people, and they don't really care. They just say a bunch of stuff that they know people will find interesting, almost like tabloid articles, you know. So it's really hard to know like who to trust, you know, when it comes to all that kind of stuff. And then you also have to put it in perspective, like how much of it truly affects your life, you know. Well, like, you know, the all the stuff you hear about, they're you know poisoning the food and putting stuff in, you know, and medicine and chemtrails and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you know, maybe, but it's like it's not doing very much. You know what I mean? It's not very effective if they're doing that.
It's kind of like the theory that like it seems I've heard it put forth that AIDS was created by the government in order to control gay and black minority populations.
Because they did a pretty horrible job at that.
It's too slow. I mean, I'm in no way advocating the use of that for such, but
you're saying if that was their motive, though, it
seems like a very poor execution. Like,
yeah, exactly, and why? Like the system is set up to promote. You hear all this stuff about how the government's going to start, you know, taking us out, and the government is causing cancer because they want to, you know, slow the population growth and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's so contradictory because the system is set up to encourage population growth. The way that the system operates, and
on one hand, you have smaller numbers of people are easier to control. On the other hand, population control flies straight up in the face of consumerism.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why
Walmart would suffer from population control.
Yes, they would. Lots of businesses would. Lots of things would suffer from it. That's why I think that there isn't like this idea of like, you know, this you know, Illuminati satanic cult where like one or two people control the entire world. Like,
I think that's a smokescreen.
I think it's just old school fear that's been going on for thousands of years to make people afraid of things, and it's just unrealistic.
What's weird is like as far as in the mainstream, before that movie, you know, that Robert Brown book, what was it, Angels and Demons, or
the one that they did the movie and
yeah. Well,
I don't think I ever saw the movie or any of that, but.
Well, it was either Angels and Demons or what was the other one he did? The Da Vinci Code or whatever?
Yeah.
Nobody, or at least the general public, had never heard of the Illuminati until that came out. But if you go back, there's an episode of DuckTales. Do you remember DuckTales?
Vaguely. I don't know if I watched that one.
Scrooge McDuck and his money bin. And
I think so. I think I watched it some in school.
He had Huey, Dewey, and Louie, his nephews or whatever. Well, there's an episode of that was on, I'm going to say around late 80s, early 90s. There's one episode where I think Scrooge McDuck's at the doctor's office. And you know the eye charts that have the letters?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've seen that picture. Yeah.
And it said, ask about Illuminati.
Yeah.
I actually downloaded that episode, and sure enough, it was there.
It seems to me like just some fear stuff. You know, if you go, here's what's interesting is, if you look through history, if you're concerned about something that's going on right now, and you search back through, you know, look back into history, do some digging around the internet about those same kinds of things, you find that like a lot of these things have been happening over and over and over and over again, like the same thing, just different people, different technology, you know. So, and every time we thought that the world was going to fall apart, and it never has. You know what I'm saying?
It was still rocking.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just fear. Just play people's fears off of each other, just to keep things moving and keep things stirred up and stuff like that. And as long as you stay positive and do what you love and work hard, and you know.
I like what Mark Twain said. History never repeats itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Yeah, it's a pretty good quote. He had a lot of good quotes.
He did. He was like a book. I'm going to have to put together a book of his quotes.
You should.
I'd probably get plagiarized.
I'll tell you some of my favorite quotes are from Far Side. Gary Larson.
Gary Larson was, I don't know why he quit making Far Side. Is he still alive?
Not sure if he is or not. Those are great, though. Those are so good.
They were brilliant. I mean, some of them were just like, eh.
Yeah, they're not all funny. You know, I mean, he cranked out so many, they can't all be funny. But
he took the shotgun approach.
Yeah, exactly. But so many of them were, though. They're just so silly, you know.
We're going to treat you so many ways, you're bound to like one.
Yeah, exactly. Like the, was the one where there's a picture of it's like a chicken in a dog costume. And he's like, that's not chicken you're eating, or something like that.
I think I saw that one.
There's so many great ones. It's funny, I actually keep one of those. Like, I have this little, like, survival pack thing or whatever. I kind of move it around to different things, but I always keep a Gary Larson book in there. Because I always figured that, like, if I was stranded out in the middle of the woods and society fell apart, like, that could keep my spirits up.
It would definitely be a comforting thing.
Because, well, almost more so than a lot of other things. There's obviously funnier things out there, but the way that his humor is done, it's a way of, like, looking at more serious things in life and then just, like, not taking them serious. You know, like, to me, that's what makes it funny, I think. You know, it's like he takes a lot of intense things and just adds all this silly, like, irony and stuff into them.
That's kind of been my life philosophy, is to look around and see the world we live in and then wonder, how are we supposed to take any of this seriously?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. I mean, sometimes it's fun to take it serious, but don't take it serious beyond a point to where you're making it hard on yourself and people around you, you know?
I mean, you can take life seriously and you'll acquire wealth or power or both. She won't acquire much else.
I think you can acquire wealth at least. I don't know about power, but you can acquire wealth.
Well, wealth is power. I mean,
it depends. I mean, it's like if you choose to use it, and depends on what level it is. But I think you can acquire those things even if you don't take life seriously. Look at musicians and stuff like that.
Dude, this is the most hippified version of GCR we've ever put out.
It probably is. That's okay, though. You know, Derek will be on next time. That'll even things out.
By God.
Yeah.
That dude's awesome, dude.
Oh, man. He's a great friend, man. And it's funny because when I first started this show, I was thinking, like, okay, who should I get on? I was like, oh, Derek has to be. You know, I was like, all the conversations that we had when we were out there working security and stuff, they could have been podcasts so easily, you know, because we would just talk about all kinds of random stuff. He's a character.
He doesn't miss a beat either. He's like,
no, he doesn't. He does not.
I mean, I've never once seen him at a loss for words. I mean,
yeah, I know. I guess it's being in the military for so long. I think he was in for like 21 years or something like that. And despite what a lot of people think, there's a lot of just sitting around, you know, and talking to people and stuff. And like he said that they were, when he was in Desert Storm, they were like, I don't know where they had him set up somewhere, but there was nothing to do. They're out there in the middle of the desert, nothing, like literally nothing to do almost. And he said that it was basically just like lay on your cot and look at this guy for a while and then roll over and look at another guy. That was it. You know, it was just like you just sat there. You just said he just read a lot, and you know that's how he knows so much stuff. I guess he did a lot of reading. Just the guys out there in the military, I'm sure can relate to it. I've never been in the military,
sounds like
so I can't.
A hell of a desert storm.
Yeah, really. I know he said some guys got agoraphobia because they couldn't handle just how open it was. I guess because it was like completely flat. You know, and
they wouldn't like Texas.
Apparently, it's a lot worse than that, though. But you're right. Texas is pretty flat in some places.
I lived in Texas for a cumulative
just do a different word.
I lived in Texas for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the wide horizon, the big sky, gives you a different outlook on things. Like here in Arkansas, you've got hills, and your sight is limited,
right,
like to a degree. But when you can see for miles all around, it almost does something to you psychologically. Like you can think in that.
Yeah, that's why I noticed that in the trips that I've had out west. Like it almost relaxes you in a way, and people out west seem more chill. I think, once you really get out there.
Whereas people here, their field of vision or thought is very limited.
Yeah.
Who knows? There may be something to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It would be interesting to do like a study on that, almost like the Native American tribes that were out in the desert versus the ones that were here in like the hills in Tennessee and stuff. Like how culturally they were different and stuff.
Like the Hopis versus the Chickasaw. Or
yeah, the
Cherokee.
Hopis are interesting.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, like very interesting. They have some interesting stuff. A lot of those like Native American tribes have some really interesting cultural, just things about them and their traditions and different stuff like that. It's really interesting, how societies like that and that way figured out ways to live and all this kind of stuff. It really starts to get hairy when you have as many people, like our society does and stuff. And I don't know that it's ever been done successfully. This many people. What
are you talking about well, I mean, there are other areas that are far more crowded than here. I mean,
that's true, like China and stuff. But I mean, as far as for like a really long time, I mean, I don't know enough about history. I'm talking out of my ass basically, but I know that. But like like look at Rome, for example. It was one of the most established cities of its time and almost of all time, and it fell. And Egypt. I mean, you would think that Egypt had they had such a big head start on everybody else. You would think that it would still be like one of the superpowers, but it's not really. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with with our country and with all the different societies around the world, because every single day we're breaking new ground with population increase and technology and just the way that we think and just everything,
The other day I was on, I think it was E-Bombs World.
I didn't even know that was still around.
Yeah, dude, they're awesome. I love. Anyway, they had this one. It was like 15 words you didn't know existed, and one of those words, and I cannot remember what it was, defined or its definition was the fear that you or the anxiety that you won't be around to know how the world's history played out.
Huh, that's interesting.
I wish I could remember what that was. It was an interesting, phonetically at least. I remember thinking that, like, wow.
Huh. Well, let people tell us in the comments.
All right, yeah.
So that we don't have a prize to give them. We can make it like a contest.
I mean, we can give them a shout out.
That's true. We could. We probably won't. We'll probably forget though, but we could.
Well, if they just remind us in the comments.
Well, it's a thought that counts. I'll think about it. I'll consider it, but I might not actually do it.
Dude, we'll just be like, hey, and just try to make a note that, hey, Shady Dealings from Jerkwater, Mississippi. Thanks.
Yeah. He knows how to work a Google, and he did it first.
Yeah. You Googled shit out of
it. All right. Well, we'll talk to him later. We'll keep this one short. All right, man. We'll do it again.
Definitely.